And then finally, just to take us through what are these changes that are coming to SNAP that I've been alluding to. The most important change to keep an eye out for is to know that these extra SNAP payments that I just talked about, officially called emergency allotments, are ending in February 2023. What this means is that starting in March, people will only be getting their regular SNAP payment loaded onto the EBT card in the first half of the month, and that there is going to be no second payment issued later in the month. This is happening because of federal legislation that was signed into law in late December of 2022. And at the Coalition Against Hunger, one of our biggest goals right now is just public communications, letting people know that this change is coming. We are specifically concerned because during the pandemic, a lot of people started receiving SNAP benefits for the first time. Our concern is that there are going to be some people who are participating in SNAP right now who don't know that this two-payment system, the way it's been operating throughout the pandemic, is not the way that SNAP benefits are typically distributed. So much of our work right now is really around public communications about this issue. Now, as we already covered in the beginning of the presentation, it is not your job as SNAP Ed educators to, talk to people about SNAP, but I am giving you guys a little bit of context and a little bit of insight into what we are telling people at the Coalition Against Hunger, how we are helping people prepare for this change. So we want to make sure that people report accurate information and changes to the Department of Human Services, the state agency that administers SNAP benefits. So there are some important changes that should be reported. Number one is address. As we already talked about, staying connected to SNAP benefits requires paperwork, and people may miss that paperwork or other important updates if the county assistance office doesn't have a current address. Number two is income. We talked about how important income is for that math equation of how much SNAP someone gets. If somebody lost work hours or had their pay cut, reporting that change to the Department of Human Services might make their SNAP benefit amount go up. Number two is we want to make sure that people are claiming all of the expenses that they're allowed to report. If someone's expenses have increased, reporting that increase might increase someone's SNAP benefit. And the goal is people are losing these emergency allotments. It's going to be a really big cut for families. And unfortunately, there is nothing we can do to reverse that change. We do, however, want to make sure that people are getting the full benefit amount that they are eligible for, and making sure that happens and means helping families report changes to the Department of Human Services. So expenses that count, as we already talked through: rent, mortgage, property taxes, childcare payments, care for older adults, and medical expenses for anyone with a disability or who is age 60 or older. Again, if expenses have increased, report that to the Department of Human Services so that we can make sure everyone is getting the full benefit amount that they are eligible for. We already talked about medical expenses, but I do just want to highlight that the expenses that someone can report, it's pretty permissible. It's a very broad category, and it includes healthcare premiums, prescriptions, co-pays, dentures, eyeglasses, paid or unpaid medical bills, and transportation to doctors' offices and pharmacies. The other thing to note is that if someone is already receiving the maximum SNAP benefit, reporting higher expenses won't increase SNAP benefits because, of course, that person is already receiving the maximum amount allowed by the program. So I do have some information about how someone can update their information. There is a customer service center that people can call. There is a mobile app that people can update their information through. There is an online portal. And then again, people can visit that local county assistance office to report changes in person. And then we also want to make sure that people know that you do not need to spend all of your SNAP. There is no need to spend all of the SNAP dollars given to you in the month that you receive them, because SNAP benefits actually carry over from month to month. All that is required is that someone keeps their EBT card active by using it at least once every 9 months. All you have to do is make one purchase of any amount every 9 months to keep that card active. As long as that card remains active, those benefits will stay on the card. And then finally, the other change coming to SNAP is related to the public health emergency. And this is going to affect those expanded college rules that I talked about at the beginning of the presentation. Those expanded college student rules are tied to the federal public health emergency, which the Biden administration has indicated is going to end on May 11th. This will affect several COVID-related flexibilities, including the expanded rules for college students. The expanded rules are going to continue for 30 days after the end of the public health emergency until June 10th. If students apply during this time, they would be considered still eligible under the expanded rules. After this date, student eligibility is going to be redetermined at the annual recertification, so that 1-year paperwork that people have to fill out, unless the eligibility change is reported at the SAR or at the 6-month paperwork. If the eligibility change is reported at that time, the Department of Human Services would have to act on it, but actual eligibility redetermination would take place at that 1-year mark. So while this is changing, this, unlike the change to emergency allotments, is not a change that's going to hit all college students at the same time. It's really going to depend on the timing of their paperwork. And just to make it really clear, that highlighted section, those are the additional rules that have been added due to COVID that will be going away once that federal public health emergency ends. And then finally, if you're interested in getting connected to my organization, the Coalition Against Hunger, you can sign up for our emails at www.hunger